on the podcast. Welcome back. And before I introduce our guest, if you have, we're going to be talking about the new Night Ranger album, ATBPO, and the band Played On. And if you are interested in picking up that record, look in the show notes because that is where you'll find the links. And without any further ado, the singer and drummer from Night Ranger, Keagy. How are you, Kelly?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
I'm well.
You're in the UK, that's correct, right?
I am. My accent's Antipodean, but I am actually I'm up in the motherland. I'm in London, and the weather's a bit calmer than it is where you are, I believe, in Arizona.
Yeah, that's right. Got a nice big storm came through at 11 o'clock last night, but all's good. This morning I got all the debris out of the pool, and so now we're here.
Now, I was going to ask you, I've been doing some research and I'm wondering, you've been doing this for so long, doing interviews to promote new records. And I wonder if it's different now because you've got like, I guess people who aren't professional journalists now, they're kind of fans and they're some of them are trying to push their own YouTube channels. Others they just love you. And everyone's got a little bit of a different agenda. Others are trying to get clicks on websites. Well, is it a different experience now doing press for a record than it was 30 years ago?
Well, I mean, we have this, we have this kind of device and this kind of stuff. But, I mean, I think it's basically the same. But what's good about now is that you can be in touch with fans a little bit more. Mm. I mean, I think back in the day you were a little more isolated and stuff like that. And that could have been good or bad, but I think it's a good thing. All these devices, all this stuff. Why not? I mean, we're kind of promoting ourselves. So it's you have to be a little more involved that way instead of having somebody to do it for you and all that. So, but I think it's good. I think it's all positive. It's all good.
Yeah. Are the questions harder or are they easier than they were 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Are they?
Well, I mean, when you're talking about fan base, then it's more like, what's your favorite color?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh my God, but not always, but.
No, a lot of people think we're going to have a flood of records now because everyone's been in lockdown. With this record, did you try to get in first? You tried to get it out as quickly, in first because not everyone, because we'll talk about that in a minute. But is that what we're going to have? We're going to have a lot of records in the next few months.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is that everybody can release a record now. Everybody can do it on their own. They don't need a record company. We've been associated with Frontiers for many, many years, and they've been really good to us, and we've tried to do our best work with them and stuff. And I think we have. The last 10 years, we've been really like kind of stepping up the game since we're producing. So it's like we're not, we're doing everything now, mixing, recording, producing. And so we want to make sure that it's good. We don't want to just do it half-assed. We want to do it as good as possible. So it's really time-consuming. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, I was listening to the record. I'm kind of like, well, I don't know if anyone's going to pay for studio time for you ever again because you did such a good job emailing stuff to each other and doing it that way. I don't know if anyone's going to finance you being together ever again. I mean, you've said you probably should have done a crappier job. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there are some expenses, that you do pay. Like I did drums in a studio for the first time in maybe 10 years. I went over to Ken Mary's studio and did drums because I'm in a fairly new house here and I didn't have everything set up. I mean, I can record here, like vocals and just, percussion and stuff like that, but I couldn't do drums. So I went and did that. And then we have like a hub or an engineer or co-producer, Anthony Fox, who's been working with us for many, many years. So he puts all the tracks together in a master and mixes it. Mm-hmm. So we do have some of those, but you're right. We can record at home now.
Yeah.
I can send myself the bill and pay myself. How about that?
The thing I was referring to earlier was like people are almost in two camps now. You've got guys who are in like 6, 7 bands at once, and they're putting out stuff every couple of months. And then you've got like bands that are saying we're never going to put out another record again, like Kiss or whatever. I don't know, Slaughter. I don't know, like plenty of bands that just aren't putting out any music at all. And you're kind of in the middle there, aren't you? I mean, you're not in a dozen bands, but you are still committed to putting out new music and not just kind of getting on the heritage circuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're all committed to this 100%. And so whenever, every couple of years, we like to go to Japan. I'd love, we'd love to have new music there. Same thing with, with Europe, and we don't play much over there, but we always want to have a reason to go out and play and not just play the old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We like creating new stuff. Every couple of years, it's like we get that itch and we got to do it, And so that's what we've been about, But the live thing is how we got started. So, that took precedent in the beginning, playing live and learning how to entertain. And then after that, it was like, well, we can't just go out and play. We need music. So it just snowballed after that. Every, record tour like that for many, many years, until we started doing it on our own. And then we just decided to, like, we'll concentrate a few years on just playing live and that's it. And then we'll go back and stop everything and make records, Before, you'd had to do both of them at the same time. Like, okay, we got to, when we're done with this tour, we got to start recording, It's like, no, that doesn't work all the time,
Yeah.
So you don't do your best work unless you're really focusing. Anyway,
Okay, well, I really like Breakout. First time I heard it, I thought this was fantastic. So,
perfect.
Is there a story behind Breakout? Is there?
There is. I mean, it's kind of like everybody's kind of writing an inspiration from the COVID-19 lockdown and all that kind of stuff. So Breakout had a lot to do with that. Brad Gillis came up with this great piece of music, and Jack, had this idea to do Breakout, and then we started to do it over Zoom calls and stuff like that. And we came up with, it was the last song we recorded, actually. It was just like we needed an extra, what Brad called a barn burner. So he wanted like this really like up tempo thing. And that's where, so he sent that piece of music. We came up with Breakout.
Night Ranger. Kelly, there's a couple of really interesting aspects of for me as a non-musician of you being a drummer and a singer. The first aspect that interests me is people in bands of certain vintage say that the guys who are most at the mercy of the passing of time are the singer and the drummer, because it's physically demanding, physically, from the neck down if you're a drummer and from here up if you're a singer. Is that, how does that, it's not an issue for you clearly, I mean, but do you worry about it? I mean, do you think about it much? What's the situation?
Sure. I mean, you have to get back in touch with those, doing both at the same time. Some, if you have enough time off, and then you go into a gig, which I never give myself that much time off. I'm always like either practicing or trying to do, like work on the set or something like that. I have Pro Tools set up that I can just go and play the set, So that's the most difficult part, is like trying to figure out timing, managing air while you're playing drums, singing. I'm basically singing on every song, either backgrounds or lead vocals, So it's been a challenge, and the older you get, you start to maybe not want to do it. I'm getting cranky about it. No. I mean, I love doing it. It's a great challenge for me, and kind of keeps everything rolling in my head, physically, mentally. So I love it.
Do you like from the point of view of singing? I was one of the guys who interviewed you pointed out that the shows are played, most of the songs are performed in the same key as they were recorded so many decades on. Is that hard? I mean, is that hard from a singing point of view?
Sure. I mean, it takes work when you're not doing it, to kind of get back in sync, with me, my phrasing is a little more like, vocally, it's a little more R&B.
Mm-hmm.
So I like messing with the time a little bit. So that becomes a challenge when I'm just playing, when I'm constantly playing the 2 and 4 and 1, 1, 2, 3, and then trying to sing phrasing that flows better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always go back and I study all the older singers, maybe not rock and roll. Sinatra is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Sinatra like sings like a saxophone player. That's what, that's what Quincy Jones said. He like sings like a saxophone player would play. And I went back and studied that when I heard that, and I was like, man, he's right. His flow and his phrasing is great. So I try and hone in on that, because I really love that idea of like being able to do 2 separate things.
Yeah, exactly. And the second part of the question was, it seems as a non-musician they seem to be counterintuitive to each other, the two skill sets, because one is rhythmic and one is melodic. And have you ever tried to teach someone who can do both brilliantly to do them both together? And obviously it's the way your brain is wired that you can do them both together. Not everyone can do it. Have you had experience with people who are brilliant at both individually but can't do them together?
Oh, sure. I mean, all the time, I run into people like, that are brilliant at their instrument, but they can't grasp the idea of like singing, doing a lead vocal, I mean, that's a whole other thing. It just needs to be separate, I just learned from the beginning. When I was 7 years old, I started doing both. So I ran into those problems early and I started to function differently. By the time I was like age 13, I was doing pretty good, And so, I mean, you know what I'm saying? And I started playing with professional guys who would like, what are you playing there? That sucks, So I got, I got that early on coming out of high school, playing with guys that were 30, that were already seasoned players, So that would help too when you get those coaches that are like kicking you in the butt.
Yeah. Is it a dying skill set to be able to do both at once? Can you see kids coming through who can do both or not?
I mean, I don't see any younger musicians wanting to do that, but I know they are. I mean, look at
YouTube.
All of a sudden Dean Castronovo is out there singing like brilliantly, like Steve Perry was, it's like, I remember when he started doing it like 10, 15 years ago, he covered, because their lead singer was having trouble and he was singing, and I've known the guy forever. And I call him up and I go, where did you, it's like all suddenly it was a surprise that he was singing like Steve Perry.
Yeah.
You asshole.
Range of the new album ATBPO, and the band played on. It's a reference to COVID, the fact that no one could be in the same room together, but they decided to keep playing, and now the results are available for you to buy. Kelly, I heard some lyrics about time not being on my side, one of the songs, but generally speaking, you steer away from that sort of stuff. You don't kind of sing about being a guy in a band who's older than 60. You know what I mean? You stay away from that stuff lyrically. Is there a reason for that? Is it you're trying to maintain the escapism in the music and the fun?
See, that's the trick that if you're going to keep making records later on in your career, you can't really repeat yourself. I mean, you try not to repeat yourself. Really, I mean, that's really the hard part. Is when you're writing lyrics, and Jack is brilliant at it, as you can see. He's done a lot of great work here. We collaborated on a lot of stuff, but he got inspired by this COVID thing, and so it kind of gave us a new subject to write about being locked down, or being the frustration of not being around people. I mean, all that. But we just had to say it in a different way. Like we couldn't say "I miss you," anymore. We couldn't do that, So it became really a difficult challenge, but I think it really worked out great on this record.
Yeah. You were playing socially distant concerts in like March, I'm guessing. You were one of the first bands back out on the road, weren't you? Was that a weird experience? And I guess, was there any personal trepidation about sort of putting yourself at risk?
Yeah, well, we worried about it because, it's like that virus, they don't even know how you get, they know the mask works pretty much. They don't know about contact. So we started to worry about all those things. We'd go out and play. People, they'd have these pods. We played like a bike week here in Phoenix, this huge big area. When they scaled it down and they put tables and they fenced everybody around. And we were like looking at it and it's like, what? What do you mean we can't be together? So it was the weirdest thing being that, we also played Sturgis last year. We played Sturgis this year too. A lot better this year. Last year, a lot of people with masks on and that whole thing. But, it's like this whole non-contact, distancing is really, it's really troublesome. I know we have to do it, but soon we won't, I really believe that.
Yeah, because you've got some promoters now insisting on people being vaxxed before they get in. The laws are different in different countries and different states. I mean, how do you feel about that? Is it you just follow whatever the rule is in the place you are? Is that just it's simple as that?
I mean, I just think that's where it's going, because the new virus that's taking hold. And so I mean, I think that they're trying to protect us, but at the same time, I know it's frustrating for everybody to, like, I can't go to a concert unless I carry this little card that says I've been vaccinated. I mean, and what about the people that don't want to get vaccinated? I mean, that's their choice, and they don't even know how it's being, transferred. They think that people don't have any symptoms can still transfer it. I mean, it's like it's all just a guessing game.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about that. It's the most frustrating thing ever, is to try and figure that out. But I mean, meanwhile, we're going to play as much as we can, and try and keep it as safe as possible.
On a happier note, you guys have been it's 40 years now, and the core of the band, you still seem to be friends. I know Jack, either that or you're good at pretending, but Jack has said that in interviews that you're one of the rare bands that you're still friends after all these years. What's the secret? If you could give someone advice on living in someone's pocket like that for such a long period and still being friends, what would you tell them?
I mean, I think it's just all about wanting to do 110%. I mean, the fans are the reason why you're here anyway. It's like, okay, well, let's just make it all about them, and really, I mean, being in a rock band can be like such an ego trip, but I think if you turn it around and make it more about the fans, and then they give that back to you, whether it's coming to shows or it's, buying your records or listening, I mean, I think it really has to be about that in order for you to really succeed. I think it needs to be about them.
Yeah.
First.
Do you've got 8 songs recorded for a solo, not recorded, written anyway for a solo album, and
sure.
Obviously, do you just see this going on and on forever? Is there a fork in the road anywhere with the band or with your solo career?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
what does the future hold?
I mean, the solo stuff will come when we're not active, I mean, that's what's always been too. It's always been those side projects happen when we're not busy. But in the last like 10 years, we've been playing year round, whether it's just a few dates and, in the holiday season in January, or if it's, we've done full-fledged tours up in Canada where we just do 18 dates and, it's like, forget about the holidays, see ya, go eat the turkey, bye, I mean, it's like, so we love playing. So we're going to keep going for as long as we can, as long as everybody's healthy, and everybody is, so.